Welcome, everybody, to America Uncanceled on CPAC Now. As many of you know, for 52 years, CPAC has been rating members of Congress, every senator, every congressman. A few years ago, we added every state legislator to that, over 8,000 ratings of elected officials. And we're also now going to start looking at a process where we can rate governors as well, which is an awfully important position around this country as we see red and blue taking dramatically different courses. And there's a lot of ways to look at the ratings, but there's kind of one easy way to look at them, and who always gets it right. And there's only a handful of people in either the House or the Senate in Washington, D.C. who get it right time after time after time. And one of them is Congressman Chip Roy from the great state of Texas. And Congressman Roy is with us now. Thanks for joining us, sir.
Great to be on, Matt. Hope you and Mercedes, your family's doing well.
Thanks for saying that. We're doing great. As I said, our ratings have come out. We were able to have a great ceremony giving people out their awards. And the conversation about the importance of rating members of Congress, maybe some people view this as kind of a fluffy, kind of honorary thing, but it's actually a very, very important thing to give people a detailed analysis of the votes that came up in a Congress and who does the right thing. Are you able to use the ratings as any kind of a tool as you're whipping votes for these important issues?
Yeah, well, first of all, the ratings are critically important, and I can say that going way back to my time as a staffer, Chief of Staff Senator Cruz, now as a member of Congress, because it really does separate, the wheat from the chaff, as they say. And you can see that over time. It's really easy to go campaign as a conservative. And I would suggest to you that every single Republican across the entirety of the ideological diversity of the Republican conference campaigns as a conservative. But that has to actually mean something. And it's not just getting one issue right. It's not just always voting pro-life. It's not just always voting for, Israel. It's not always just voting for picking an issue that's important as they are. It's across the spectrum. Are you a limited government fiscal conservative who stands up to defend the United States, stand with our allies, stand up for a secure border, stand up for the American people and the issues that matter? And so the ratings look across all of that. And CPAC is particularly good at looking at a bunch of the different issues, looking at the votes from last year and the score. And I was happy to get a perfect score. But more importantly, I was just happy to be right on those issues. And it ran the gamut from protecting gun rights to making sure we are standing up against, abortion for all and standing up for life, making sure that we're standing up to limit spending. Go down the laundry list of the issues that you all were scoring. They were all the central issues that we need to be getting right and not just giving lip service to. And it's important when we're on the floor working with each other, knowing where everybody stands. Nobody doubts where I and some of my Freedom Caucus colleagues and some other strong conservatives stand. And so that really kind of helps define the fights when we're going into them. Like last week on the National Defense Authorization Act, we led into that fight. We led on amendments. We led into getting that done. And it was a great bill that we were able to send over to the Senate.
So I like what you say about the way CPAC does it. There's a lot of great ratings out there, and you should look at all of them. I know Heritage Action has always had ratings. You have each of the groups like the NRA and the Susan B. Anthony list and National Right to Life. They might pick, a set of issues and score those issues, and you have other important ratings out there. One of the things I like about CPAC's ratings is it's the panoply of issues. We used to talk about three legs of the stool, whether it's social, cultural conservatism, national defense, and limited government. So like looking at all those issues are important. But the NDAA bill, this national defense authorization, this reauthorization, the one bill, it seems like there's just a tradition where it passes every year in Congress as a non-appropriations bill. And so the fact that you led on these important issues on that bill, and some of your colleagues got some important amendment wins as well, is critical. The real question is this, I want to pose it to you. When you get an amendment, an important amendment on the NDAA, there's limits now on using federal taxpayer money to pay for abortions and to travel for abortions. You were able to be successful. I want you to explain some of the amendments you were successful on. At what point do you vote for a bill that's not perfect because you get your amendment on? And how do you think about that as a legislator as you have to decide these important things?
Well, it's art, not science, right? You know it when you see it. And we try to do our best to make sure we're fighting for everything we can fight for. So take the NDAA. I voted for an NDAA my first year in Congress. President Trump was there, and I was trying to stand with defense. A lot of things in it I didn't like. I was laying a marker down, and then I haven't voted for an NDAA since. This year, we were able to get a lot of really good measures passed, and it was a Republican-driven NDAA. Like I said, we only had 4 Democrats who ended up voting for it in the end. We were able to get an abortion measure added to it that Ronnie Jackson led and I co-led. It was the 2 of us. Something that pushed back on the transgender surgeries. We were able to get a measure in there to fight back on DEI and make sure that we don't have chief diversity officers. That was one of my amendments. Also getting critical race theory out of the Defense Department schools. And I got one late night last week, right before we passed the NDAA, that restricted the application of the president's directives on climate change to the national defense, to the DOD. So these are all really good things. So that's a big deal to send over the Senate. Now, we don't expect to get all those back. But what we're trying to say is lay a marker down that if the Defense Department isn't going to be focused on its job, which is to kill people and destroy things when called upon to do so, hopefully sparingly, but when you do it with force, then we're not going to turn it into a social engineering experiment wrapped in a uniform. So when I say it's art, not science, I need to see material changes coming back from the Senate. I may not get every one of my amendments. I get it. We're in divided government. But I want to see change on abortion and trans and DEI and CRT and climate change so that defense is focused on its job. We're getting in a real bad straits. Recruiting is down. The morale is down. The simulations against China are not going well. So we need to get our crap together. We need to start defending the United States of America again. And that's my threshold.
Yeah, no, you're right. The number one issue with the military is, embracing woke and the fact that this multi-generational trend where military families encourage their sons and daughters and grandsons and granddaughters to join the military. It's sad that seems to be reversing. You have, these families telling the next generation not to join because you literally have generals and leaders in the military under President Biden thinking about promotions in the military all about people's race. We got to get white generals to retire so we can replace them with people who are racially diverse. This is an insane way to run your military.
No, it really is. I put out a report jointly with Senator Marco Rubio, I think last December, that laid out a lot of the woke, issues in the Department of Defense. Everybody I talk to talks about the recruiting dilemmas, all of the actual, recruits that I talked to, including at Parris Island last summer. They were talking about how much that stuff is impacting them and their friends who say, you know what, I'd love to join the military, but I just don't want to be preached to. I don't want to be told all that stuff. I don't want to, frankly, be endangered because they're more concerned about, being woke than on making sure we're trained to do our job. So we've got a lot of work to do to get that morale back. This is not unlike 1980. President Reagan came in and did a lot to get our military built back. I really like the odds of President Trump or President DeSantis or somebody strong in 2025 coming in and doing what we need to do to revitalize the military, but only if Congress does its part. And that's what we're trying to do now. Use the power of the purse, use the National Defense Authorization Act to force change. Too much happens in this town on autopilot, the uniparty, if you will, that just says, oh, let's get it done because we got to do it. It's always been bipartisan. For 62 years, you got to do it. No, we're not loading up a Christmas tree to keep doing what the American people don't want us to do.
You raised the question of the presidential race, and I think it's critically important. I've always been a sunny side optimist, thinking that God has a plan and we have many days before us. But this slippage that America has gone through, embracing socialism, the government just has exploded in its size and its breadth, has me quite dour and concerned. People can make their decisions in this Republican primary about where they are, but as a member of Congress, how critical is it that we win back the White House in 24?
Yeah, it's a must. It's just simply a must do. We've got to win. What's happening to our country right now, we can't survive it. We cannot continue to survive as a free republic if we're empowering radicals at the FBI and the federal bureaucracy to go after Americans like Mark Houck in Philadelphia or Scott Smith in Leesburg in Loudoun County. We can't continue to do what we've done to defense, as you and I just talked about. We can't continue to be weaker than China. We can't continue to undermine our industrial base with seeking this radical climate fetish agenda. These are all things that could go down a laundry list. We need strong leadership, and we need it right now. It is time for America to win again. We need to win with someone strong in the White House, and we need a Congress that will do its part, right? I saw them in 2018. We all did. when we totally failed, and the White House failed too, when we failed to pass an actual Obamacare repeal replacement and make sure that we had healthcare freedom for all Americans. We failed to secure the border, and we're ruining the consequences of that right now. We did not set enough things in place to strengthen the military and get it out of this woke indoctrination. We turned over the keys to our economy to Anthony Fauci. We should not do that. And the Congress has a job to not spend money that we don't have and to stand up in defense of the American people who send us here. They can't just look to the White House. We have to lead. But we need someone in the White House we can partner with and who will provide that vision. And I just hope the primary, look, duke it out, guys. That's fine. I'm totally fine with it. Everybody gets all worried about that. Duke it out. But next year, we're going to unite and beat President Biden or whoever is running on the Democrat side, because they're completely out of step with the American people.
Well, this primary is much like what happened on the floor of the United States House of Representatives, which was another form of a primary when people wanted to have a very public debate on who was going to be our speaker and what were the conditions by which they'd be speaker. And you should have seen people saying the sky was falling. You remember that, Congressman? Oh my God, this is a black eye for the Republican Party. This is an embarrassment. We can't be having this discussion in a public way. I haven't heard anyone talk about that fight since then. We got through it, and people voted their conscience, and I think it was a good path.
Well, Matt, I couldn't agree. Obviously, I was a part of that debate, and I think it's a great argument. It's one I haven't really used in the context of the presidential, and I think I might steal that. It's a good point because everybody was saying the sky was falling. It was ridiculous. Good friends of mine that I deal with on Fox or out there in conservative media were saying, guys, what are you doing? This is terrible. It's like, hold on, guys. We just want to have a debate. We want to have that debate openly. We want to change the way the House works. We want to restructure things to be successful. And you know what? Other than the debt ceiling, which I took strong issue with publicly, I thought that was a deal that was not worth taking. We've done extraordinary work. H.R. 2, best, most conservative border security bill we've ever passed. The NDAA, strongest NDAA we've passed in years. The legislation that we passed on Limit, Save, Grow before we got to the debt ceiling was a very strong bill. Parents' Bill of Rights, H.R. 1 on energy. These are good bills that we've managed to get through because we had a holistic, conservative, influenced effort in the House. That's what we need here. And look, we can take a page out of that book and learn in the presidential process.
Look, you're someone who not just votes right, you lead. And one issue that's becoming increasingly important to all of us and important here at CPAC, where we have established a new center to combat human trafficking, is this terrible modern slavery of child sex trafficking. You've got a piece of legislation on that. Can you tell us about it and how we can help you get it passed?
Well, Matt, I appreciate it. I mean, first of all, I encourage everybody to go out and see the Sound of Freedom. What we see happening to children, to little girls, it's abhorrent. We had 856 migrants die last year along the southern border. 53 migrants cooked in a tractor trailer in San Antonio last summer in the heat. It's unconscionable in this supposed false name of compassion. Democrats are saying open borders are good for migrants and Americans, and it's not. So we're working on legislation with respect to human trafficking. We're trying to stiffen penalties. We're trying to make sure that we create frankly, a task force kind of a process, not unlike Project Safe Neighborhoods, to go after human trafficking, to go after fentanyl trafficking. We need a whole of government approach to knock that out of the park, and we're working on it right now.
Well, we appreciate you doing that. We look forward to being your partner with our new center and using the ratings to drive changes in these laws at the national level and at the state level, quite honestly, where we have some states that are doing the right thing and we have some states that aren't. So thank you, sir, for your great votes and for your leadership and for being a great ally of CPAC.
Thanks, Matt. God bless. Y'all take care.
All right. Thanks, Congressman. And thanks, everyone, for tuning in to another episode of America UnCanceled. I apologize once again that Mercedes isn't here with me, but I can assure you that she is going to be sitting here in front of you talking about the issues that matter very soon. And thanks for tuning in, and God bless.